Hey everybody, last one of these I did. I'm pretty sure it was like 105 degrees. Well, it's January now and it's about 25 degrees. So I'm not going to spend too much time outside, but I'm in the neighborhood of the bookstore that I haven't been to in several months. So let's go in and take a look and see what they got. It's a signed first of Full Throttle for 80 bucks. That's probably overpriced, but anyway, I think I found one of those last year at Half Price Books, just out on the regular shelves for 10 bucks. So you just never know. Out here on the unlocked, just open shelves, there's a signed first of Strange Weather for 65 bucks. Interesting stuff. Still is probably overpriced, but a good find for a huge Joe Hill fan. The Certificate of Authenticity, which I have learned probably is something to avoid. The signature looks authentic. Certificate of Authenticity could be designed and printed just by anyone with a home printer, so don't put a lot of stock in those. In fact, you might run the other direction without other verification, because sometimes people put these in books or collectibles that they know are forgeries, trying to make them seem more authentic than they are. Anyway, that ends my soapbox spiel on certificates of authenticity. But anyway, cool find. What? Carry. 30 bucks. So here, I mean, if it was a first edition, it would be worth a ton. See if I can get a glimpse of the binding from above. But the first hint that I can tell this is a book club edition is because it's the same height as the 9.5 inch tall book next to it. So that's too tall to be a first edition. If it was a first edition, $30 would be the deal of a lifetime, but it's a book club edition of some iteration. Still a nice looking book. Looks like it's in good shape, but they have it behind locking cabinet glass today. You just never know. Again. Okay, out in the regular stacks. Blaze. Ton of V.C. Andrews today. Several copies of the Regulators. Interesting. Some Joe Hill. Okay, I found a few things I wanted to talk about. This large print edition of Thinner. It's really interesting. It's very worn. Looks like an ex-library copy. $7.64. Has some foxing. I've just never seen this one before. Not a great cover, but I guess the image is applicable to the story at least, but it's kind of funny. I also wanted to show this. This copy of 4 Past Midnight, I could tell by the artwork that it's not a first because the lettering on the cover of the first would be in foil. It would be shiny and reflective. So this is drab. You can tell right away it's not a first, and the jacket is unpriced. So that's some kind of a book club edition. However, the book is really nicely done, quarter cloth binding, just like the first. So it could be very confusing or misleading to think you have a first book, potentially in a book club dust jacket. But that's why all the points on the first edition videos and the listing of what to look for are so important. So the first of 4 Past Midnight has yellow end papers. And what so often happens, especially in the 80s and 90s Viking, is that the first have some kind of colored end papers, and the book club editions do not. They have white. So this book has white end papers. That's a huge giveaway that this is not a first. Even though the book itself can be very misleading, and the copyright page can be very misleading, even though if you look really hard, it doesn't say first published, it doesn't have that language. The Viking books can be hard to tell from the copyright page anyway, so this can be really tricky. So anyway, look for the white end papers. It's a dead giveaway on these 80s and 90s Viking books. But I just wanted to show that as sort of an example and a cautionary tale. This book costs $7.99, and in this condition, if it had been a first, I would consider that to be a really good deal. But for a book club edition, it's fine. It'll look good on the shelf, but you should hold out for the first, because you could find one for not much more than this. So anyway, just word to the wise. And then finally, the most interesting thing that I saw is this First of Misery, which I recently in another video showed the First of Misery that I found in the wild for $20. This one is $14.99, and in much, I mean, it's in decent shape, but it's not anywhere near as good as the one that I bought. So I could tell that was a great deal. $14.99 for this, I think, is still a good deal. But a big part of In the Wild treasure hunts is holding off for that perfect deal. I would consider this $14.99 a fair price, not an amazing price. Anyway, I was just showing in the 4 Past Midnight, look at the end papers. A book club edition of Misery would have an unpriced jacket. This one is priced, and white end papers. This one has the appropriate red end papers. And on the copyright page, the first published language that the book club edition of 4 Past Midnight did not have. And then under the jacket, quarter cloth binding, gray boards, red foil stamping. So that is a legitimate first edition of Misery, which is cool. They also have plush uteruses with smiley faces. Very cool. Interesting find. $12.99. You could have your very own plush uterus with a smiley face. Wow. Interesting stuff. So that was fun. I hadn't been into that bookstore in months and months. I did actually ask one of the people that works there to open up the locking case so I could look at that carry. Yeah, total book club reprint. Not even one of the nicer ones I've seen. It did have two color binding with the quarter cloth, but it wasn't cloth, it was paper. I've seen book club editions that had actual cloth bindings, quarter cloth bindings, which is something. It's a bit of a nice touch, nice bit of quality. But that's the reason for these videos, is so people know when they're in the wild kind of what they're getting into and what a good price might be on things. I think those two signed Joe Hill books were probably overpriced. That book club edition of Carrie was overpriced at $30, although not dramatically overpriced. It was okay. The first edition of Misery for $15, decent deal. But I think there are better deals to be found out there. And that's the whole point of In the Wild treasure hunts, is holding off, having the strength and the courage to say, nope, not today, and walking away. I've heard of the concept of placeholders. I'll buy it as a placeholder while I'm looking for something better. And I get that, and I've done that before, but the whole idea of that seems kind of ridiculous. Just save your money and don't have a thing on your shelf, and just save your money and shop around and find the real deal at the price that you want and then take the plunge at that time. But anyway, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming with me. And wherever you are, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
And now a word about our sponsor.
So this channel focuses on the core Stephen King bibliography, all of the major releases, some of the minor releases and kind of oddball things, and the limited editions of those books that have come out along the way. But did you know there's an entire world of items that Stephen King has been affiliated with over his long career, but that are outside his core bibliography? He's written introductions to books by other authors and even signed his name to some limited editions by other authors. There's even been a guitar, the Cujo guitar, that was released that had a Cujo theme and Stephen King signature. We're talking dozens of items outside the scope of what we will be talking about on this channel, or at least have plans to talk about at this time. But you can find the entire list, all this information, over at StephenKingCollector.com. Click on the tab Other Editions, and here you see the entire list of these oddball kind of off-the-wall releases. Titles with clickable links, you can click, you can go in. Thomas is building out these pages, adding the information as he gets it. Titles that don't have clickable links, the clickable links are coming. This is a work in progress. But just when you thought you knew everything there was to know about Stephen King collecting, there's the Other Editions tab. Very, very interesting stuff. I highly recommend that you go in, take a look around, check it out, and you'll be surprised, I think, by some of the things that have come out over the years. Whether you're interested in collecting these items or not, simply reading about them, learning more about them can be a lot of fun. So go on over to The Collector and check it out.